Hi there, welcome back to another episode of Leading Las Vegas. I'm Danielle Ford, and I decided to switch this up a little bit. Usually I interview these amazing guests one-on-one, but I wanted to have a group discussion about something that I know is concerning me and a lot of people, and I just felt like really compelled to bring some of the most influential, inspiring, and just most amazing Black people to give some feedback on to what is happening in this country with racism, with the murdering of Black people, and with no convictions for the responsible parties. And it's infuriating to me. With that, when I post about it on social media, I get so many comments that are like defending cops, that are saying all lives matter, and I try to kind of put my, drop some truth bombs or whatever, but I wanted to ask some questions about that, and most specifically about the Black Lives Matter movement and what that's about and what the fuck we can do to make it better. So this is Kevin Madison, Frantonia Pollins, and Alicia Mejia, and we're all here to discuss this. Does anybody want to jump in?
Who wants to take this topic on first?
Well, I will.
Great.
It's for me. It's very simple. It's not about. I think it's well beyond the point of something's wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's well beyond the point of we need to come together. I think it's now to the point where you need to know where your fundamentalist ideals and your neglect to be open to how the world is outside of your bubble.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think people need to like start popping those, because my opinion, and it's been vindicated past 5 years, many of occasions. My vehement belief is that at the core of Middle America, flyover America, there is absolutely zero understanding of what the problem is.
Yes, and
Zero.
that's exactly it. People will tell me like, okay, but white people are killed all the time. Black people kill other Black people and things like that. And then it's hard for me to even like sometimes like argue.
You can't process it, because it's like, okay, if I were to go into anyone, let's from a very, since we're talking about systemic racism as the popular term of at least the past couple of years, let me give you an example of what systemic means for a lot of people who just don't know. A lot of people hear terms and start using them but really don't know or have an idea of what it means. So let me give it on a granular level for people who may not understand what systemic racism is. Let me give an example. If I were to go in any one of you guys' home,
I totally know what you're getting at right now. Can I interrupt you really quick?
Go ahead.
So let me tell you a story.
Go ahead.
I was, this is 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. It was midnight. I was at my house and I heard something in the garage. This is long story short, but I went to the door and I grabbed a glass frame because I'm like, what the fuck is that? And this man walks into my house, staring straight at me. And I go, get the fuck out of my house, right? And he left. Now, I just told you that story, but that was not how he told the story for a couple years.
Wow.
My story was, so then I was standing and I walked over, I grabbed a frame and I stood there and this Black man walked right into my house. And I was like, get the fuck out of my house. Okay? And so a couple years later, I realized, why am I always saying Black man? Mm-hmm. If he was a white man, I would not be like, and this white man walked into my house. Like it's almost like I'm conditioned to say that, right? Mm-hmm. And is that where you were going with? Because it totally triggered that.
It's I'm glad it triggered it. Similar setup, kind of, as far as someone coming into your house and you just assuming that, being that it's a Black man, that
I should point that out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is more so just direct, man. Like if I go into you guys' house, okay, violate your family, violate and take everything in your house, beat the hell out of you while I'm at it. rape your kids and all of that. My family is going to remember that for a long, long time. Your family, rather, is going to remember that. The descendants of your family are going to remember that guy Kevin and his family pillaged and came into our house, stole, beat. That was 60 years ago.
My grandkids are gonna still tell that story.
It's going to change the dynamic of their family.
I was just going to say, just change the story.
Change the whole dynamic of their family.
Absolutely.
Just because I don't think, again, systemic racism, I don't think people grasp what that really is. Systemic meaning from the origin or from the place where it is most powerful, it permeates it's systemic. Like that, it's built for a reason. The system is built and designed for you who are a second-class citizen to not thrive, but to be our slaves, to be our workhorses. Fast forward, okay, now you guys are free. Well, really? Were you? No.
Yeah, because then there were laws put in place
Laws
that continued to serve the dominant culture, particularly around the financial benefit that was gained by our labor, free labor, and then really cheap labor.
Now that we're missing that,
right? And so once the system of, and I want to just back up a little bit and talk about the slavery that took place on these shores with Africans who were stolen and brought here to America. Other people, I often hear people say, well, other races and ethnicities were slaves as well. There is not another race of people in this country that were brought over here and put into chattel slavery. And so again, when you don't really have a clear definition of what you're talking about, it's easy to try and homogenize things.
And dismiss it.
Right?
Yeah.
So chattel slavery means that not only are you my slave, but anything that comes from your womb, your offspring, from now until eternity, belongs to me. So
hence the reason why her last name is hers and mine is mine. Madison is not my last name.
Absolutely.
Oh shit! Really?
Absolutely.
Stop it right now.
Madison's not my last name. Her last name.
I never even consider that.
Those were at some point in time. Whoever owned my family, their last name was Madison.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that's the reason why Malcolm X changed his name to X? His last name was Little.
What about people that are like, okay, that was a long time ago. I never owned slaves. I don't agree with that. Yada yada. Get over it. I'm not saying it's not coming from me.
I am. I'll ride with you up until the point where you say get over it, right? Because we can look at historically and say that system does not, that historical system, the way that it was, does not exist anymore today. But the get over it part is the part that bothers me, because that is the point at which I believe the human to human disconnection takes place. That's when you say, I don't want to have a conversation about this. I don't want to engage you in an in-depth enough conversation where I begin to feel anything about what you're saying.
Yes.
So I'm going to deflect. I'm going to say, get over it. I'm going to say, it doesn't matter. It was a long time ago. It doesn't matter. We don't say that to any other group of people who have had a historical trauma.
Say get over it to anybody who lost a family member 9/11.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's like, wow, that was insensitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that being said, like, what is a solution, or what's a way to like turn it forward and move past it? Like, how do you
Self-awareness. Black people understanding who they are. Period.
And as a mother,
Understanding who you gotta. You'll find that the most secure ethnicities in this country have a close ties to their roots.
Absolutely.
Period.
What about, I feel like a lot of white people, myself included, feel triggered, like when it's going to make us seem racist.
What is being triggered?
Uncomfortable. If for some reason you tell me that I'm saying something wrong on social media or something, it's like I don't want to look at it because I don't want to look at that I might be racist or that I might have that feeling. I'm like, it's just I'm not racist. I'm not talking about it. I'm not in it. But you know, we are kind of culturally just brainwashed from our childhood.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is stop expecting to have this conversation and be comfortable about it.
Right.
That's the very first thing I would say.
get comfortable with being really uncomfortable.
If you are sincerely interested in engaging in the conversation around racism, be prepared to be uncomfortable. Be prepared to be introduced to some concepts that may be completely outside of your, everyday data sphere.
Every day that we've grown up, up until this point, we tap danced around it. I never had this conversation with my 4th, 5th, 6th grade teachers, 8th, hell, not even high school. And I went to a Catholic, predominantly white high school. I will say this, and I posted about this on Facebook. There was a time where I was sitting in the auditorium, entire student body, and it was a movie. I remember, I don't know the name of it, but it was Matt Damon. And Matt Damon, it was a music scene, and we're dancing, and Matt Damon was like, it looks like you got nigger in you. The entire auditorium. I'm talking about these dudes that I played.
Are your friends?
All of them that, like, bro, you know. And I turned, and all of them laughing. And I'm like, oh, okay. But see, what they didn't understand is that my mother and father were straight G's. Like, my dad, my mother taught me before we even went to that school. You know what's up, right? You know what it is when you go here. You know why you're going there. Act accordingly. They're going to say some shit. They're going to do some shit. But you have my permission as your mother and your father. That's the reason why I didn't get in fights in that school. For one, I let it be known I will smack the shit out of you do anything stupid. Mm-hmm. And coming from a boxing background, it was very easy for me to say that and know that I'll hurt you. So I stood behind that bravado for a long time, but really what it was my defense mechanism, because at any given time, if I was in the bathroom or if I was by myself, if they really wanted to, if they really wanted to, they really could have did something to me. So me having that bravado and saying that was really my defense mechanism to the utmost, because to be quite frank with you, there was space, plain and simple. And there was, and now I don't want people to hear this who went to that school. I'm not going to say the name of it, because it was a good school for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. But in terms of diversity, in terms of awareness, to whereas, hey, we do have black students, so laughing at that kind of, or even playing this kind of film,
it's not okay.
It's not okay, especially when you see the whole student body laughing and not one administration member of the administration says anything. Not one comes up to say, dude, you know, don't worry about that. Right. Nothing. Nothing. But again, I didn't mind because Mama and Daddy prepared the hell out of us.
Okay, but this is what we talked about before. Mm-hmm. Why should parents have to prepare their kids for that? Like, Alicia, your son is mixed, right?
Yeah, I have 3 kids. They're all mixed, and yeah.
And you're like, that's not something I have to be afraid of. Like, that's not something I have to tell my son.
Conversations that you have to have. Yeah. It's completely, and then you just go like, it's such a broad topic, and it's. I just
3 kids.
We prepare our children because we want them to come home safely.
Totally, that makes that makes sense. But you shouldn't have to, and people don't understand that. And especially now, I mean, circling back to the original topic that we were talking about with the police brutality and murder of black people. I'm
gonna say this: a lot of people ain't gonna like this who are cops, and I'm no disrespect. I'm for one, if you know me, I'm beyond. To even think that I'm racist is stupid. This is my assistant. Like, I love her.
You guys can't she's white.
Yeah, like I love her.
And
like literally.
I thought it was his sister.
But like, to be frank, man, I mean, you got some white people who just don't give a shit, man. Like, I'm gonna just tell you flat out, they just don't care, and the ones that don't care are in power.
Yeah, totally.
So that's an uphill battle. So when you say I look at her, she has 3 kids. Boys?
Girl, boy.
The boys. Because I'm a black male, so I can only relate to that experience. But as a black man, when you have 3 or 2 boys coming up in this environment, the thing that you need to prepare them for is to know that, hey, you're going to confront some people who ain't going to give a shit that you black, man. They ain't going to give a shit about your struggles. They ain't going to give a shit about your history. Yeah. You got to be prepared for that. Because the more and more I see us becoming familiar with the plight of what has caused this country to be in a position it's in, the more radical I see white people becoming. A lot of them, like, you know what, we got to protect her.
Like us
how are you white and you got to feel you got to protect yourself in this country, man? I think that's just like, it's so oxymoronic. How are you white and you feel you have to protect yourself in this country?
You're protected
of all countries in this one.
We only have a couple minutes left, but I'd love to get Frantonia, your commentary, and also, do you have anything that you think might help? Just tips for us that don't understand things.
What do we do?
Can you take all your information and put it into the 2-minute?
Wow. So one thing I wanted to say, I want to kind of piggyback on what Kevin said as we were speaking about Alicia and her children. Mm-hmm. And so I'll say this in regard to how it affects Black women. Racism and the system of racism is particularly when we talk about the law enforcement will affect Black women in that you can have a cop in Ohio that will rape 25 Black women and nobody
on film.
Nobody does anything. And let me go this far. The National Organization of Women doesn't get involved. None of the radical feminists that get involved when Beyonce is shaking her ass and they say she ain't a feminist, but they don't get involved when these 25 Black women are being assaulted by a police officer. So those are the ways that racism shows up within the system that affect both Black men and Black women. The other thing I want to talk about is, and we don't have a whole lot of time, about intersectionality, particularly in the space of women. Like this systemic racism thing shows up almost everywhere with the exclusion of women of color from leadership, I'm in the women's empowerment space. Rarely do you see us in that space represented. And so it shows up in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of spaces. You know, to attempt to answer your question, the biggest thing is conversation and be willing to show up with that. I always say be willing to show up to that conversation ignorant.
Totally, yeah.
Be willing to show up ignorant. And that means I'm showing up because I don't really know or understand your experience. You don't know or understand my experience. And I'm here to simply learn. Mm-hmm. I'm open. I'm receptive. I'm willing to ask questions. I'm willing to hear some things that may be uncomfortable. But I'm here because I have a sincere desire to know.
I feel like we almost need to show up to those conversations like pre-apologetic. Also, like, I am so sorry. Like, just as it seems as though, like, Kevin, you were saying that your mom and dad taught you that, you know, like you come along and you have these almost, I don't know if burdens is the right word, but you have this stuff that you carried into that school, right? So it was fear, it was awareness, it was all these things. I feel like I'm Irish and Mexican. Like, I come into these things apologetic. Like, I go for everything that my people may or may not have done, you know?
It's one thing that I will share with you, being a parent of young ones, right?
18, 15, and 13.
Shit, yeah. Prepare them for the ones who don't care. I'm telling you. Those are the ones that are the threat. The ones who at least will listen, you can get somewhere. It's the ones that do not care and will say, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let me say this. So when Daniel was talking earlier about how it's sad that we have to prepare our children, you know, to go into environments like that, do not be fooled into believing that those who don't care are not preparing their children as well. They're sitting them down and schooling them. They're teaching them about racism. They're teaching them that they're better and that they're superior. They are teaching.
That's why they don't care.
This is an intentional conversation that they're having.
This is why this topic feels so overwhelming to me. Like, sometimes there are things I don't want to talk about because I go, I don't even know where to start. Like, and this to me is kind of one of them. Like, I know we need to have a conversation, but
which is beautiful.
There's no like one answer to it. I think that this, at least being aware that the conversation needs to be had and there's a place to have it. And you guys, let's continue this conversation in the comments because Frantonia, I'm sure, would be more than happy to jump in and talk more about it. We can even have another episode about this, maybe about this similar topic.
Are these live comments right here?
No.
Oh, I thought people were. I said, hold on, man.
Don't look at that. That's super. Great job. No, never. That's hilarious.
You're huge in Peru.
That's really funny. But you guys, we have to cut this episode off. But I want you guys, anyone who is like me and feels just really upset and like, how can I help? And what's the conversation? And what do I do? And please explain this to me. Put it in the comments, and we will totally, if you're willing, continue this conversation at a later
Great platform, Danielle. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you guys so much for being on the show. You guys can also find where to contact everybody below as well, okay? So we'll see you next time. Bye. If you loved this episode of Leading Las Vegas, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also watch more episodes like this here or on leadinglasvegas.com.